We are headed to Encinitas, California. We are going to meet with Natalie and her family, who have been doing some heavy work, not afraid to get their hands dirty and working on their backyard to create a oasis for themselves. Luckily for us, they found our work and decided to bring us in as the professionals because they think that it might be a little bit too much for them to handle as far as a DIY build. So we're super excited to be starting this project, and we cannot wait to build it and show you the results. So we're out here in Encinitas, California with Natalie. So thank you first and foremost for having us come down to work on this project. What did inspire you as far as the actual water feature is concerned? I mean, you obviously have a lot of room and land to work with, but what inspired this part of the project?
We spend a lot of time at home. Sometimes I wish I was in the redwoods or up in the Central Coast and next to a stream bed or a creek. We've known that we wanted to get a water feature out here, so we're like, all right, let's start watching some YouTube videos. We saw a couple, we're like, yeah, that looks straightforward, we could do that. Then we watched yours, and we watched another and another, and we were hooked, and we thought two things. One, this guy is great, and two, if we try and do it the first time, we're not gonna get what you produce.
As far as any of your expectations, as far as the water feature itself, do you have any that you want us to make sure that we hit?
First of all, I have so much confidence in what you do and your instincts. I feel comfortable saying just do whatever you want to do. We want to feel like it's integrated into our environment. And when you're finished making what you make, we obviously have a lot of work to do with the rest of the yard, but we're going to take inspiration from what gets finished here to complete everything else.
Awesome. No, that's for us, we love hearing that. Those usually turn out to be, for us, the best projects that
Nice.
You guys kind of center what else happens around it on the water feature. So we're just getting started. Yeah, we're looking forward to it, just kind of piecing things together, getting your reactions here and there, and then of course the final reveal. I'm standing at the top of where the waterfall is going to start. We're going to do artesian upwell, and it's going to cascade down and meander down all the way about 15 feet to about this area. Cool thing that the homeowners have done so far is they've done some trenching for the future electrical line that's going to power the pumps, as well as the autofill line over here. This is going to be a grass area, but they've kind of left this open for us to do what we're going to do, and they're going to build around us, which is always exciting to have somewhat of a blank slate to work with. What we are going to do here is use a Desert Select boulder, which you've seen in a lot of our videos, but it's going to tie in with the rest of what they're doing with the landscape here. And the look that we're looking for this particular water feature is actually a babbling brook more than a loud pumping waterfall. So stay tuned and we'll see what we come up with. So here Carlos is using our laser to spot check the elevations that we have on the job site. It's really important for us to know what we're working with as far as what we need to bring up or what we need to level off or even shave down. But most important to us, and something that is always fun, is to know how much elevation change in order to understand how many waterfalls we can fit in and how tall each one's gonna be.
Gonna be a couple drops, huh?
Oh, yeah. I just didn't realize it's 2 feet 4 inches, because once we do our base in a few inches, that's like 3 feet of drop. So we start our upwell kind of in that corner and dive down into here, and then have our basin start probably like this, right off of this corner. For most of our projects where we are constructing a basin with aqua blocks and a pump vault, we'll literally take out the aqua blocks panels and lay them out and figure out what the best configuration is. We could always do the math and do measurements, but the easiest way to kind of visually see what's going on is to actually lay out the panels and sort them in a way that we are gonna be able to maximize the space and the water feature the best. Because of this natural grade change, is maybe what we do is just have the waterfall, instead of start like this, is start kind of more like this. And then play with this a little bit. But I just worry that we don't have enough width. One of the fun parts of this project was the existing slope that we had, and we had to fit it in a spot where there was an existing ramping walkway.
and we came up with a couple of different ideas. One was to really accentuate that curve and have the water feature really make a hard turn and create more dynamic feeling.
We got plenty. This is 12. I mean, we obviously need to hold the edges up.
But the more we thought about it, the more we realized that by doing so, we would have had to build up the other side. So we kind of ended up with something in between, where it wasn't a straight shot coming down the entire slope, but there was a slight turn. And I think the movement of the actual water feature and the way that it worked with the grades really became more of an organic, natural feel that worked out for the best.
Can you shoot that corner to where the top of the aqua block is? Right about there. What is that grade change? It's like over a foot, huh?
10 inches
10 inches. Yeah, we can't go too crazy then.
down there.
Yeah, we can't have it go down here, because then
Yeah.
that'll destroy the look here.
So in this situation where we had that elevation change of 10 inches, I didn't want to go too crazy. We could have created a taller waterfall drop, but in order to do that, to keep the water in place with a liner and hold that side up, we would have had to build up a mound or another side of the water feature pooling area in order to hold that up. And that would have been not so great looking from if you were walking on the pathway or even looking at it. It would have looked a little bit too forced.
But as far as basin, I think we're good.
What's that?
This is gonna have to retain. Should we go this way?
This
64.
one's 64 and this one is, oh yeah,
64.
10
So let's
10 inches.
flip it.
So we finally decided on the final layout for the aqua box. We did put a slight turn into it just to make sure that everything was kind of lining up the way we wanted with the existing pathway and the house, and make sure that the water was going to flow into that basin the way we were picturing.
So like that.
Yeah, with the vault on the end.
Okay.
Corner closest to you.
So now that we got everything figured out as far as how the water feature was going to flow and everything was going to come into the basin, we started digging. So like we always do for a constructed basin, we're gonna excavate the hole, make sure everything's at the right elevation, compact, level, dig out the foot for the vault, and then throw in the fabric, liner, fabric, aqua blocks, vault extension. So when we're figuring out the liner size for the actual basin that we are installing, what's always important to remember is that the liner has to go up and down the walls that you are going to excavate, including the up and down of the vault foot. So not only do you need those, the ups, the downs, the actual footprint of the basin size, but you also want a little bit of slack on the sides so you can put in different rock work and make sure that that liner is going to encompass the entire basin footprint, as well as capture any water that's going to come in from the water feature system itself.
Drop the rest of the sand in, and then we'll fill this a little bit with the water and then start jetting.
One of our preferred methods for finishing up a basin is, once the vault and the aqua blocks are in, is to push the liner back, and we'll fill that void with some sand. And what we'll do is we'll start compacting with the end of a shovel as well as jetting. But what we're also doing is we're actually filling the basin itself with water. And what that's gonna do is help from things shifting or moving, because that extra weight helps lock everything in, and it also gives us a little bit of peace of mind that we don't have any leaks, and if there ever happens to be a leak, that we're able to find it sooner rather than later.
And then don't get too caught up on building a huge retaining wall there yet, or using all the biggest rocks. In between, let's stack smaller rocks. Feel free to use those to hold that up. And if we need to cut out more dirt or do whatever we want to do, like they said, it's up to us.
Okay. Oh, okay, so we can still go more.
Shave, we can do whatever we want. We just need to pull their topsoil back.
Okay.
The first rock that we set for the retaining wall of that slope was kind of important for us to find the right rock that anchored the entire thing. It wasn't the biggest rock, but what I liked about it, it was working with the grade that was existing and kind of just falling into place and looking really natural in that spot. Okay, let's do less of a turn. A little more in towards you, and then push it towards a little bit less. You're this part and this way, yeah. More. Yeah, like that. Yeah. Okay, let's look at it.
Oh, looks great. We good?
Yeah.
Okay, right there, perfect. And you want to go take the liner and figure out which way I'm going to bring it in.
So one thing we try to always do on our project is figure out where the center line of the water feature is versus where we're gonna have to land our liner. Because when you're out measuring a piece of liner, it does get a little bit cumbersome. It can be a multiple, or usually is a multiple man job for us. And so it's always a good idea to figure out where that center point is, mark it on the liner, and then we have a target. So when we're dragging in that liner, it's centered. And this way we know when we do open that liner up that we have equal liner on both sides versus falling short on one side and being long on the other and having to pull and force and coming up short and just having a lot of extra work later on. So centering it, figuring out where that center point is, targeting that liner, landing it in that spot, and then opening that liner up is the most efficient and best way that we found to actually position liner.
We need to build this side up. Maybe make this a weir here. Just a short side would be cool. Just barely coming out, yeah. So maybe a little bit turn this way. But I don't want to go all the way up to see where this is.
Yeah.
I kind of want to stay within this area versus pushing all the way to here, right? So let's try that.
So this boulder not only became a framer for the waterfall, but it's also going to help hold up the slope above. So on this one, we found a weir that dropped almost perfectly into place. Once we found another framer that really helped set the whole picture for the waterfall, we backfilled with a little bit of 3/4 crushed gravel, everything locked together, and created a beautiful picture of a waterfall. So now we're ready to start building our second waterfall drop. What we're gonna do is peel back the liner and the fabric, regrade the area just so everything's gonna fit the way that we want with the other boulders that we're gonna set into place, compact it, reflip that liner back in place, and set our rocks. So what we're doing here is actually checking the level of the compacted pooling area. What's important for us to know is where the water is going to level off on top of the weir rock. So here we're just double checking the elevations to make sure that we have enough room to put in the pebble and that we'd have a space for water to pool and do what we want it to do.
Just for fun right now, let's set that little weir and see what kind of room we have. Because maybe we won't even be able to fit anything.
So for this waterfall, we actually chose the weir rock first because we knew we were limited on the space that we were gonna be able to set it. Once we had that selected, we figured out a couple of frame rocks that we're gonna work with the existing grades to really accentuate that waterfall coming in.
Very nice. How wide is that weir now for water spilling over it?
16.
It's a little much.
Something that we always have to take in consideration on these waterfalls is the actual flow of water coming up and over them in order to get the effect that we want. And knowing that 16 inches was going to be a little bit too wide for that weir. So what we did is we just closed that weir space down a little bit by moving the frame rock in, and in doing so we were able to create that effect that we were looking for on the waterfall. So just like that, we're done with our second waterfall. We're gonna repeat the process by flipping the liner back, doing some grading, compacting, and building more waterfalls as we move up towards the house.
One thing we have to do is make sure there's like a sitting spot. And we don't have a lot of stream left. I mean, you could sit in this thing from here.
So in the negotiations of this water feature, the client specifically asked to be able to sit in this water feature and enjoy the water, not necessarily lounge in it or be able to submerge herself completely, but just to sit in the water, be able to dip her feet in and enjoy the actual experience of being in the water. So far we have 3 waterfall drops, and we're gonna have at least a 4th until we get up to the top, where we're gonna create an artesian upwell system to start off the entire waterfall system.
think we need to set one more weir and framer, spill into here, it comes back this way, and then build this up with gravel, set another weir and framers, and then set that aqua block on top of gravel once we build this up a little bit.
So we had a couple of options to start off this water feature system. The client actually preferred that we use an artesian upwell system, and with the space that we had, we were able to squeeze one in. The differences between the two are, one is easier to install, which is the spillway. The artesian upwell takes a little bit more time for us to plumb in an aqua block and make sure that the water is going to come through. But the artesian upwell, at the end of the day, is easier to disguise, where the aquascape spillway is a little bit harder because there's some plastic pieces that we really have to fine tune the detail work in order to make sure that no plastic is visible. So there's pros and cons to both. We like both, but typically prefer to put in the artesian upwell when we have enough line or enough space to do so. So the client actually had a couple of manzanitas that she wanted planted around the water feature. We offered to plant them for her so we knew where to put the outcroppers. What this created once we had them planted with the outcroppers is a nice balance between greenery with a plant that softened up the rock work and really positioned things where everything was kind of in balance. So now that we have most of the outcroppers set, now it's time to do some more of the detail work, which includes backfilling, filling any voids. But what we're trying to do at the end of the day is conceal anything that is unnatural, like liner, foam, plumbing. The final 10% is which really helps makes the water feature come together and make it feel like it's always been there. So now we're finally at the point where we can test the water flow and how it goes up and over the waterfalls and through the stream.
That looks really good. Way better than I expected. That's excellent. Standing underside of the basin.
As we were testing, we didn't find any leaks, but we did find a couple of waterfalls that we didn't have enough flow going over them.
Or sharpen it. Maybe if we sharpen it, it'll be enough. That's all we need, just a little bit. Yeah, I think we just need to shave that one end, maybe sharpen that second one.
There was one waterfall weir that we did have to bring out the grinder to start shaving down. And the reason we did that is that we wanted the water to sheet over more of the area of the weir versus the one spot that it was naturally going over. We don't necessarily always look to grind and do a lot of manipulation to the weirs, but when necessary, we will bust out the grinder and do whatever it takes to get the effect that we're ultimately looking for. So here I'm just fine tuning a waterfall in the way that the water is gonna go across that weir. Just by placing a different piece of cobble to redirect the water to go in a different direction. It actually forces the water to go over the weir a little bit differently and the angle in which we want that water to flow and go over that weir.
Look at the dragonfly already. We turn it on, the dragonfly's like, here's water, I feel it. Isn't that crazy?
So once we figure out the issues and we're able to correct them, we're ready to dump in the last layer of pebble and really finish off the water feature. So we just wrapped up this 15-foot pondless waterfall. Now it's our favorite part where we bring out our client.
Hello, you ready?
I am ready.
Okay. So what do you think?
It's gorgeous.
You like it?
It's so gorgeous. It's really beautiful. I can't believe how quickly it's happened.
You want to tell me about how the process went and where we're at now?
The process has been years in the making, just knowing that we wanted to have water moving around back here and to create an environment that felt like a little bit of getting away, but being able to stay home too. I mean, the whole yard is big, and obviously there are a lot of things we could do, but this is a jewel, a genuine jewel.
What are your plans for like the landscaping, and do you have anything else in mind at this point?
When we bought the house, the whole thing was lawn. It was a lot, like a football field, which was fun for running around and playing. But yeah, our needs have changed, and we like the idea of making a good home for ourselves and the birds and the whole environment.
Yeah, no, we love it. I think it turned out really good. And then even like we turned it on, 10 minutes later, dragonflies were already coming to visit. So I have no doubt that you're gonna have the birds, even the bees coming by to check this thing out.
They're gonna be really stoked about this. And the sun came out for the reveal.
Yeah, exactly.
So thanks for joining us. We hope you like this build. And if you could do us a huge favor and like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.